What's up, guys? I'm Chad Barnes, and welcome to the channel. Here, it's all about real car talk, from simple fixes to smart driving tips and keeping your ride in top shape. If that sounds good to you, go ahead and give the video a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button and make sure you watch all the way through. There's a lot of good stuff coming. Let's get to it.
There are a lot of stories and scary tales about North Korea. They say that cell phones were introduced there only in 2013, and the tourist who does not go to the tomb of Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il, Kim Susan Palace of the Sun, will be burned with napalm. It is difficult to separate truth from fiction, so periodically I will make remarks about the reliability of information. Unfortunately, I can't do without it. I was the first, now I'm the second. What do we know about this country's car industry? Not much. It is so secret that there is not even accurate data on how many cars are produced in the DPRK per year and how many are sold there. The figures given are different, but in any case ridiculous. The market capacity of the country with a population of 26 million people is estimated at 40 to 50,000 per year, but in fact the production, of course, is not happy with such a number of cars. Even the largest plant of Pyeongwa Motors General Corp., a rare beauty joint venture of DPRK and South Korea, and the word Pyeongwa is translated as peace, produces something around 500 cars a year. And what kind of cars? Mostly they are copies of Fiat Albea, aka Vifaram, Whistle, and Fiat Doblo, Paguki, Cuckoo. Also from its assembly line come out, for example, variations on the theme of Toyota and SsangYong. To be fair, I note that in the best years, approximately 2009 to 2011, the volume of production reached almost 1,500 units per year, but then something went wrong. In order to survive, Pyeongwa exports part of its cars to Vietnam. Maybe this plant should be described separately sometime, but today we will talk about another enterprise, Sungri Automobile Plant, which was the largest plant in the DPRK before Pyeongwa Motors appeared. By the way, you notice the scale, right? 500 cars is the largest plant. Henry Ford is rolling over in his grave. A logical question arises. Why is the production volume so small? Maybe they just don't need the cars. Here I put a note dug up on the web at least in two sources. I do not vouch for 100% reliability, but everything can be. So, the first reason is the difficulty of acquiring a personal vehicle. No matter how much a new car costs, it is difficult to buy one in a country where salaries start from $10 a month. The second reason is the difficulty of obtaining a driver's license. According to some tourists who spoke to locals, there are no other sources. Before studying for a license, a candidate needs 2 years of experience as a mechanic or other profession where he or she could become well acquainted with the structure of a car. This is followed by 6 months of training, which must be attended like a full-time job. The reason for this is that the car fleet of the DPRK resembles that of Cuba in some ways, a lot of old cars and hodgepodge. And somehow it all has to be repaired, because there are problems with service. It is almost non-existent there. By the way, gas stations are also hard to find, and departmental cars prefer to be refueled directly in motor parks. In our country, it is much easier to repair a car on your own because of free access to the internet. If you don't know, you look at tips and do it. In North Korea, only tourists and some officials have free access to the internet, and it is more difficult and expensive for others to get there, although now there is mobile access and even internet cafes. So a driver in North Korea must also be a mechanic. There are 4 categories of driver's licenses in North Korea, and it's harder to get a category for a passenger car than for a truck, bus, or off-road vehicle. It is no surprise that personal transportation is a luxury. The automobile industry is much more interested in producing what the party tells it to produce: buses, trolleybuses, trucks, and military vehicles. Trolleybuses, by the way, are better than buses. Things are not good with gasoline and diesel either. It's funny that popular in its time trolleybuses Cholima 951 are Hungarian Icarus 260 with electric motor instead of internal combustion engine. Well, let's not get distracted and get back to our Sungri automobile plant. Thank you, comrades. Sungri translates into Russian as victory. But how to pronounce it correctly, I can't say. They write Sungni, Sungri, Sangri, Sunny, Sunny, and Sangi. If anyone knows how to read more accurately, I'd love to see the correct version in a comment. I, however, will write Sungri for now. So, this modern name, fully Sungri motor plant, was given to the plant in 1975. But it was founded in 1950. At that time, it was called differently, Tokshin Motor Plant, and was located, as the name implies, in the city of Tokshin. I have not been able to find out what this plant was doing between 1950 and 1958. Most likely, until 1954 there was nothing to do but repair equipment for the Korean War. And since 1958 the production of Sungri 58 automobile started here. For this vehicle, Korean comrades should say a big thank you to comrades from the USSR. Sungri 58 is a fairly accurate license copy of our GAZ-51. The same truck, but under the name of Eugen NJ130, as many people know, in the same years became the first car assembled in China. There is very little information on cars from DPRK, so I would like to say thank you to Andrew Trubin, who in his publisher Cars from DPRK and other exotic countries collected almost all available information on these cars and allowed to use it for preparation of this material. Of course, I will add some things, but the lion's share of information is the merit of Andrew. So, Sungri 58. To be honest, this is one of the few Sungri cars, which was produced under license. Often cars were simply bought, disassembled, scrutinized and assembled the same one, but their own. But Korea was friends with the USSR. Therefore, the Korean Sungri 58 was licensed. There were not so many differences from our GAZ-51. First of all, another grille is noticeable, but the rest. It is funny, the information that Sungri 58 had weaker springs in the suspension was very popular. Somebody said it, others reposted it. If the author finds springs in the spring suspension of GAZ-51, or Sungri 58, I will be very surprised. Even more ridiculous is the story about uneconomical diesel engine. There was one motor on this car, GAZ-11. And it was gasoline. In general, everything else is speculation. But one fact is confirmed by numerous photos. Koreans were very fond of gas generator variants of Sungri 58, running on firewood. It was connected not only with the shortage of gasoline, but also with terrible fuel consumption, which, judging by reviews, the Korean car had even more than GAZ-51 because of low production culture. In particular, the carburetor. So the gas generator came by the way. Sungri 58. Photo. Cars from DPRK and other exotic countries. This car was produced for a very long time, until 1979, the release of Sungri 58 KA modification. As well as in the case with GAZ-51 in the USSR, on the basis of Sungri 58 was produced a bus, surprisingly similar to our GZA-651, and its modifications from PAZ and KAVZ with the face from GAZ-51-51A. On almost the only photo of this box, which is walking on the internet, the same inscription Sungri 58 can be seen on the side of the hood, so the model index, unfortunately, could not be established. Koreans have one quirk, to give the model index coinciding with the year of production start. So let's take a look at the next car, which started production 3 years later than the Sungri 58, the Sungri 61. Doesn't it remind you of anything? Yep, this is a four-wheel drive version of the 51st Lawn, GAZ-63. There's nothing to add here. We always thought that GAZ-51 is some kind of Soviet long-lived. It was produced from 1946 to 1975. Its Korean brother has almost outlasted it. No, officially in 1979 a new generation came out, the Sungri 58 KA. Externally, the car looks new and does not resemble GAZ-51. And it almost does not look like our GAZ-52 either. The Koreans have made their own cabin. But inside this Sungri 58 KA is the same chassis Sungri 58. Remember, something similar was with GAZ-52, which was a remodeled externally GAZ-51, but unfinished internally GAZ-53? It's the same here. And they produced this crabapple for a very long time. Only nobody knows how long exactly. Someone writes that it is still on the conveyor, but most likely it is not true. Now there is a fresher generation. The production of Sungri 58 KA was in the heyday of the plant itself. In the early 1980s, Sungri Motor Plant produced up to 20,000 cars annually, but by the end of the 90s, it barely managed to produce 150 to 200 cars per year. Nevertheless, even in 2009, Kim Jong-il personally still remembered the good old Sungri 58. There is even a report of the Korean Central Telegraphic Agency from March 2009. During his visit, the country's leader highly appreciated the merits of the company's employees, noting that they made a great contribution to the economic development of the country and AMP, LT, and AMP, GT. The company's firstborn, the truck Sungri 58, remains its calling card in AMP, LT, and AMP, GT. In the early 80s, the plant Sungri broke traditional ties with Soviet enterprises and began to modernize its models independently. And Sungri 58 Ka on the basis of GAZ-51 was produced for 20 years at least. Sungri 58 Ka. Photo. Cars from DPRK and other exotic countries, and what is still produced today is the all-wheel drive version Sungri 61 Na. The production of this car began in 1979, but nothing better has not been invented since then, so it is still produced today. First of all, for the army. But there is enough work for it in the national economy of DPRK. Technically, it is the same GAZ-63, but with a cabin similar to the cabin of Sungri 58 Ka. I mentioned that some people make the mistake of thinking that the 1979 Sungri 58 Ka is still on the assembly line. I think the legs of this mistake grow from the place the Koreans restyled this model in 2008 and 2009. It is very difficult to understand these cars. Let's start with the fact that 2008 is a very tentative figure. Someone noticed the car on the roads that year, but even Kim Jong-un himself probably doesn't know when it was produced. Most likely, it appeared 10 to 15 years earlier, but everything is guesswork. The task to find out the year of appearance of these cars becomes unsolvable also because very few cars were produced in these years, and their appearance on the roads could simply go unnoticed, especially given the large number of very survivable Sungri 58 Cas. From the technical point of view, nothing is clear. There is an opinion that the payload has increased from 2 to 2.5 tons, but it is not clear on what it is based. What kind of motor is there? Also unknown. It is logical to assume that some Chinese, but on the other hand, Sungri 61 Na with an engine from GAZ-51 is still produced, so there is a possibility that in this car of 2008, or not the 8th year, there is the same clone of GAZ-11 engine. I would lean towards the Chinese motor. All the GAZ-11 clone cars have a lot of photos with gas generator sets, but I haven't seen any such in the newer ones. Maybe it's a matter of more economical new motors? I don't know. Maybe it's the fact that there aren't many pictures of these newer cars either. The 2009 restyling at least can be dated accurately. There were some dates from the Korean press. But that's about it. Chassis, engine, and everything else are cats in a bag. The only thing that is known reliably, there appeared plastic elements, grille and headlight bezels. This is such a mysterious DPRK truck industry. Well, nowadays Sungri motor plant like to copy Chinese trucks. Something was stolen from Photon, something from Sinotruck, but there is no reliable information about these trucks. Except that some of them are equipped with an American diesel engine, made in China, Cummins ISF 3.8S. Without a hint of subtle trolling, I remind you that the same motor until recently was put on part of GAZ-3309, and related Cummins ISF 2.8 of the same origin is on modern Gazelle next. It is not all. I won't put a stop to it yet. There are many more interesting pages in the North Korean automobile industry. Unfortunately, there are even more white spots, but what can you do? Still, let's continue the topic. These comrades have other trucks and other factories, some of which also produced funny cars. For example, Mercedes-Benz 190 with an engine from the 21st Volga. In my opinion, it is more interesting than Baby Benz with 1 UZFE, isn't it? In conclusion, the Secret Sungri factory stands as a fascinating glimpse into North Korea's industrial landscape, where whispers of GAZ-51 descendants continue to intrigue automotive enthusiasts and historians alike. While the exact details remain shrouded in mystery, the possibility of this factory producing vehicles that echo a bygone-era highlights the complex interplay between tradition and innovation in the country. As we continue to explore the hidden facets of North Korea, the story of Sungri reminds us of the enduring legacy of engineering and the secrets that lie within its borders. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the unknown.